But Allison serves as the Job Readiness and Employment Manager at Community Servings, a nonprofit food and nutrition program providing services throughout Massachusetts to individuals and families living with critical and chronic illnesses. Take it away, Allison.
Thank you so much, Jimmy. So I'm Allison Sequeira, and I'm really grateful for the chance to share with you all today, and also just to hear from Molly and Kayla. It's really interesting to hear more about the SNAP ENT program from the federal level, as well as how a program like Fair Start is using this funding so robustly. We are more kind of in the early years of using this funding, so it's really neat to see how things can evolve over time. So I just wanted to start by giving you a quick overview of what our program is. So Community Servings is a food and nutrition program. We make homemade, beautiful meals for people who are living with critical illnesses. We feed the person who is sick, as well as any spouse or caregiver and any children in the household. We provide food for over 2,000 people every year, and the meals are home delivered, and there's actually, you can see on this slide, a sample. They're all packaged meals, so clients are getting 5 dinner meals like that. They get soups, salads, desserts, snacks, and different breakfast items in a bag every week. So that is the mission of Community Servings. And then we have a Teaching Kitchen Job Training class, which is the program that I work for specifically. And this is a almost full-time 12-week job training course for people, adults who have some sort of barrier to employment. Many of our trainees are people who have recently come out of incarceration and or are in early drug and alcohol recovery. Those are a couple of our primary demographics. And they do an internship in the Community Servings Kitchen, and then we also have the job training classes with a chef instructor every day, and then I teach job readiness classes each week. So that's a little bit about our course. And I wanted to just share with you about how we use SNAP ENT. So we're in the state of Massachusetts. So it sounds like maybe a bit of a different setup in Massachusetts than in Washington State. We started using this funding around 2013. It actually predates my time here. But the funding we connected with actually as a result of some city and state partnerships we had with other funders. So other funders suggested that we connect with SNAP ENT as a complementary funding because of the 50-50 reimbursement rate. They suggested that we get partial funding from SNAP ENT, and that would kind of support the partial funding that we were getting from these other sources. In the state of Massachusetts, our SNAP ENT funds are administered actually by a SNAP unit at the University of Massachusetts. So there's a team of people there who specifically administer these funds in conjunction with our local Department of Transitional Assistance, so like under the heading of Health and Human Services basically. So we work in conjunction with both of those offices to take care of the assessment of eligibility for individuals, and then also to complete the billing and reporting for the funds. So that's a little bit about how we work. We combine funds is a very common thing we do. So many of our trainees are eligible for some other funder that may not fund the full portion of their cost here, or we'll have people that are only eligible for SNAP funds, which is really helpful. Similar to what Molly was saying at Fair Start, we really strive to accept the people who are most in need of the Teaching Kitchen course offering, as well as those who would most benefit and are most ready right now. So we don't look at individual applicants in terms of funding eligibility, but really in terms of who's going to make the most of the opportunity. So we've found these SNAP funds to be helpful because so many, after we do acceptances, I go backwards and really see who's eligible for what funding. It's been really, really great to see that the majority of our class participants are eligible for SNAP ENT. We participate in a few different of the components. So you can see down on the right there, we take advantage of skills training funds. So that covers part of the cost of the actual Teaching Kitchen course, the job search training funds, which helps to cover the, we do like resume writing and mock interviews and, course elements like that separate from the actual kitchen instruction. And then ongoing job search training. So when people graduate from the class and I continue to meet with them one-on-one and provide job search support, we are able to get a little bit of continuing SNAP E&T funds for that, that component of our work with the individuals. Participant reimbursements is something we're considering, but when we get later on, I'll talk to you all a little bit more about some of the challenges we've faced. So right now we are not taking advantage of the participant reimbursements for things like transportation costs, et cetera. So I thought it might be helpful to share a little bit about the on-the-ground process and paperwork. I know this would vary by state, but I thought just to have a case example of how it works here in Massachusetts. So Jimmy, if you could help flash up that provider referral form for people to look at. Thank you. So this is the referral form that the applicant would fill out, and I do this when I interview them, so that you can see in the box there, Part 2, Client Acknowledgement and Release of Information. So this is just what the applicant would sign to authorize me to speak with the state offices to see if they're eligible, and then you can see it about mid-form. It says component type, so I have to indicate to the state, am I asking this individual to participate in the skills training, so the actual kitchen instruction, the job search training, or the actual job search? So those are the three components that we are taking advantage of. So I have to indicate that up front. What are we actually seeking funding for? So we complete this referral form and submit it to the Department of Transitional Assistance, who would then tell us on that bottom part, Part 3, they say like, this person is eligible, this is when they would be recertifying for SNAP, or they would tell me why the person is not eligible. So I thought this would be just a helpful example for people to see. So the process is pretty simple to assess for eligibility, but it's still, filling this paperwork out for each person and getting it submitted on the proper timeline can be a little tricky when we have last-minute applicants coming in hoping to join a class that starts next week. It sometimes is a little too late for the turnaround time required. So after that, that initial kind of assessment of eligibility, there's also a questionnaire that I fill out that helps the Department of Transitional Assistance decide whether or not to provide funding. Oh, we can go back to the other slide. Thanks. So it's kind of those two different pieces of paperwork that are submitted up front. And then the only other, reporting requirements are there's monthly hours submissions, so we have to have people log in and out each day so that we can submit very precise hours of participation. And then our finance staff takes care of quarterly billing, which is based on, what program component the individual is participating in and how many hours they completed that component. And annual outcomes reporting as well as audits. So that's a little bit in terms of like just the paperwork and process involved to work with SNAP E&T in Massachusetts. So it's not too much, but we have found that it's the sort of paperwork that's definitely very specific. It has to be done on an exact timeline and be completed very correctly. Sometimes we have found on the back end that we didn't ask for the person to do job search training, and then there's no funding for that. They're only getting funding for skills training, just as an example. Okay, so a few of the challenges I thought might be helpful for others to hear as you're considering using SNAP as a funder, as well as just how we have chosen to tackle these challenges. So the reimbursement rate, the 50% rate is, on the face can be a little discouraging, but for us, as I mentioned earlier, it's been really helpful as a supplemental funder, as well as just as a funder that often someone is eligible for when they may not be eligible for any of our other streams of funding. So even though on the face it's only partial program funding, it has been a real asset to us. The administrative overhead can be a little burdensome. Our staff here is actually just myself and a chef instructor. We're the only 2 full-time staff that manage this program that serves 40 or 50 individuals each year. So at times it feels like a lot of paperwork and reporting. And something that we've chosen as a way of managing this piece is to decide there are actually some additional components of SNAP ENT that our program could qualify for that we've actually decided not to take advantage of because the dollars are low enough for the amount of paperwork required that it doesn't feel necessarily worth it. So that's a hard decision to make, to kind of leave money on the table when we do have a very active state support here that they keep bringing this to us and saying, you could do this, you could use SNAP ENT funding in all of these other ways. And at least at this point in time, we've decided, to really focus on those 3 components that we definitely feel that we can manage the reporting for. And then the last challenge that we've faced is, I think, just has been a learning process for us of seeing, the SNAP ENT funds, as Kayla was talking about, they're so flexible, which is amazing. But it's been a bit of a process for us to understand how does our existing course offerings, how do those offerings map onto the SNAP ENT components? So what do we label each thing? What is the skills training? What is that, and what is required on the side of SNAP ENT in order to qualify our course as a skills training, and what is required for job search training? So trying to pair those things together has been a learning process for us. Next year, so our new funding year starts October 1st, and we're excited to be introducing an additional SNAP ENT component for an apprenticeship that we hold here. And that's something that we hadn't done before. We didn't realize that could also qualify as a sort of, ongoing skills training. So, it's been a process over time that I would just encourage those of you who are thinking about using SNAP ENT as a funder just to realize that there's plenty of support there. I would assume from your state administrators, but just to really be in conversation with them about exactly what is included in your course right now and how might those things map onto the SNAP ENT components. So that's what I have to offer. I realize we're running up against our end time. Does anyone have questions for me?
Okay. Thank you so much for your presentation, Allison. I learned a lot, and we'll probably be able to take one question for Allison, but if you have it, type it in now. We are at the top of the hour, but we will take one question right now that is in the queue, and it's from Tona Cravioto. And Tona asks, we are a food service training program in Maryland. We have unsuccessfully applied to SNAP funding in the past. What is the advice you can give us to increase our chances to get funding and reapply?
Hi, Tona. So actually in Maryland, as you sound familiar, they have a specific assessment that they do to all providers to kind of find. So they're really focused on in-demand jobs, looking for programs that are focused on, are connected to employers in the end. So they kind of have a stipulation or a lot of things, specific areas that they're looking to expand in. But by all means, connect with me and I can actually connect you to the state agency to answer specific questions or talk to them directly if there is a way that you could improve your application and to have that further discussion. As well as anyone on the line, if you have any specific questions about getting connected, as I said, please connect with FNS and we can try to connect you.
Yeah, and I'm happy to make that connection today, actually. I can introduce you to Kayla. And if anyone else is interested, please just reach out. I don't know, Kayla, if your email was provided in this, but I'm ready right now. Okay, great.
And so we'll just close it out with one last question. I guess it was a question for Allison. How do you remain so calm, Allison? Any advice? I don't know if what, in your daily life or in your work, what that means. But
I do work that I really like.
So there it is. That's the secret. Do what you love. And we are 3 minutes over the top of the hour, so thanks everyone for sticking with us. I hope you all learned a lot. I would like to thank the presenters one last time. Emily Olson Harvick from Catalyst Kitchen. We have Kayla Wilson from the USDA Food and Nutrition Service, who I hope you will email if you have any specific ENT questions. We have Molly Hancock from Fair Start, Allison Sequeira from Community Serving. Thanks so much, everyone, and I hope we stay in touch, and I hope to see some of you using SNAP ENT funds in the future.
Yes, so do we. All right, thanks, everyone.
Bye.